The next step that happens is that we need to get senior staff, whether it's artistic, executive staff, whoever, comfortable with social media. So I have a riddle for you. How do senior staff of symphony orchestras get comfortable with social media? And if anybody, I know that this crowd will get this joke.
Martinis.
Martinis, that's a new one, okay. How do we get them comfortable?
Don't tell them.
Don't tell them. Well, that works, but only so long. You know, there is the under the radar kind of stuff. How do we get them comfortable?
Hire a young one.
Yes, that works. That works, but again, only so far.
Show them. Show them.
Show them? I think it's this. And that was my test to see how well Carnegie Hall was listening, and they responded within 5 minutes. So practice. You need to get their hands on it. And I'm not saying that your artistic director needs to live 24/7 on Twitter. I'm not saying your managing director needs to, be tweeting or have a Facebook fan page, but they need to put their hands on it to at least understand it, so you can have that conversation. So I remember, and I think I did a training social media lab with a group of Bay Area arts organizations, and I think Teddy's sitting in the audience. And I know at the beginning of this several months, and it was funded in part by the Hewlett Foundation, so I could say hello to Mark over there. At the beginning, I remember, I think your reaction to it, and you talked about this beautifully at the end, was like, it's like I'm getting vertigo. And then you kind of get past the vertigo, and you start to see and appreciate the importance of it and how it works. This is a guy from Andy Bales. Anyone from Los Angeles? He works with the Union Mission. It's an organization that's been around for 100 years. And he's in his 60s. 5 years ago, younger staff members came to him and said, this stuff is really important. We need to have a presence here. And he agreed to be reverse mentored. So the younger staff people taught him how to use it, and he's on Twitter. He uses it. Most of the staff in that 100-year-old organization have a social media presence because they want to raise the issue of homelessness across social spaces. So of course, once this happens, you can't just let everybody run loose, even though you've lost control. But you need to codify, a social culture, and that comes with a social media policy. And these are the kinds of things that go in a social media policy. And to get started, you can there's a tool online. This reminds me of the abstract art term paper writer. Where you could go in and you check off a few questions and it would spit out a term paper on abstract art. So this, you answer 12 questions about your social media use in your organization, and it spits out the first draft of boilerplate for your social media policy. But that's not an ending point, it's a beginning point, because that's where you can begin the conversation. What's most important are these additional resources, because the policy is kind of philosophical, big picture, but when the rubber hits the road, it's an operational problem. It's an operational issue. You need the handbook, and a detailed handbook. You need training. So in a nutshell, the philosophy could be summarized in a tweet. Be professional, kind, discreet, authentic, represent us well, and remember that you can't control it once you hit update. So, for example, Wendy Harmon from the Red Cross, who is their social media person, her personal motto is, I'm not going to tweet anything that embarrasses my mother. I have colleagues from the YMCA, and they said it's no different than 20 years ago when we put in our employee handbook, if you're going to go to the bar on Friday night and get sloshed, don't wear your YMCA t-shirt. You're representing the organization. So don't put those wet t-shirt pictures up on your Facebook profile if you identify yourself with your organization. The other is the testing thing. You write something, people are going to make mistakes. They have to be trained. I love this one. Trying to work out if the new BBC social media guidelines allow me to say I've been in a meeting about the new BBC social media guidelines. So there's this testing the policies, refining and educating. A policy's not written and just stuck in a drawer and ignored. You need to use it. And finally, you need to have it really specific operational guidelines. These are the best practices for tweeting. Here are some ways to update your Facebook status. So people avoid making the rookie mistakes and they feel comfortable representing. So I think we're going off to the next, am I done or am I continuing? Oh, okay, so that's a lot of the larger organizations, is that whole culture shift. So how many of you are from smaller and mid-sized orchestras? Like, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 staff members, about that? Yeah, more or less, okay. Okay.
0.
1, 0, okay, all right. So the social policy stuff may not resonate, but I bet you this resonates. Okay. You want me to tweet too? No, I'm unpacking the music, you know, and putting it on the music stands. You know, I'm calling the musicians. I'm writing the, you know, press releases. I'm getting the brochure printed. I don't have time to tweet. What do you mean? But really, it's a mind shift. We're talking about making a mind shift. And what we're talking about is going from scarcity thinking to opening up to the abundance of what a network and being present on those networks and working as a network can offer. So let me show you a couple examples. If there's any from orchestras, I would love to have them. I might have a few from some arts people. So this whole idea is simplicity. You know, at its simplest, going and then leverage the network. You know, the Archimedes principle. Give me a lever and I'll raise the world. Okay. Okay, so this story, I was just doing a training for junior achievement worldwide. And so I had junior achievement people from all over the country and the world. And there was one of them in New Jersey, and the development director told this fantastic story. She said, we just started to get on Twitter, and we thought the whole thing was stupid. But I thought I'll give it a I'll give it a try. You know, let's just see what happens, you know? And so she started tweeting, and then she connected with this ACSO foundation, a family foundation that was operating in New Jersey, and they started having conversations on Twitter, and one thing led to another. They had coffee together, and it just worked out that the Junior Achievement had this program that fit perfectly with the foundation's funding, and they funded the Women's Forum, the Young Girls Training Forum, all because of a connection she made on Twitter. So, you know, is the development officer the future? Will they be using their LinkedIn profile, their Twitter profiles, or whatever to, you know, find prospects, cultivate them, you know, and is that the new taking them out to lunch? This is from the Los Angeles United Preschool Group, and they're an advocacy organization that wants to make sure that there's high quality early childhood care out there in Los Angeles County. And they said, you know, we don't really touch the public. I don't know why we really need this. And so then they discovered that they have this group of parent advocates, and these are the folks that go to Sacramento on their behalf anytime a legislation comes up that affects quality child care in the state. And then they found out, they did a little surveying and talking to them, that there were a number of them, you know, parents today, on Facebook. So why can't they do the same thing on Facebook? Why can't they be our advocates on Facebook? And the marketing staff was really happy because it took less of their time to do it. This is another, I've just been working with early childhood organizations. So this is Preschool California, and they are using their Twitter primarily to connect with journalists. They're finding it much easier than emailing press releases. They're also finding that journalists are also turning to Twitter as sources, and they've been able to be a source and provide their content to journalists through connections made on Twitter. And this is something that they do 10 minutes a day, if that. Once they've gotten over the vertigo, about 10 minutes a day. And this one, San Francisco, this is the SPCA, this is Lady Meow Meow. So this is an elaborate kind of YouTube channel that talks about cat adoption, and it's really hilarious. And I was asking the communications persons, oh my God, do you have a whole person in your staff that does this? This must take a lot of time. And they said, no, you know, we have volunteers that do this. This is a volunteer project. The other thing that's important from, this opening up and leveraging your network is, are you only transactional in the way that you're approaching social media? Or are you treating your potential network like an ATM machine? Asking them for money, asking them to buy tickets? You know, are you just talking about yourself? Because that doesn't build the kind of relationships and engagement that you need to have your social media scale. Have you been doing your listening? I know, what was the percentage that are doing Google alerts? But it's not just getting the Google alerts, it's not just seeing, who mentioned, your organization's name. I call it action listening. You want to know who the influencers are. You want to know where the hot topics are taking place about classical music, or not having music education in the schools, or, what should I be doing tonight? I'd like to go out. You want to be able to summarize that information and be sharing it internally. And then you want to be able to take action with it. And that can be codified and wrestled down to the ground into a workflow that doesn't take 24 hours a day. I think, right? Can Teddy back me up? Yes, okay, talk to Teddy. Here's another one, exploring the relationship. This comes from San Jose Opera. They were another participant, and what they decided to do with their Twitter experiment was just, who are the people following us? And they used a little application called Friend or Follow, and it sucked it down into an Excel spreadsheet, and they got the names, they got the website addresses, their last tweet, and lo and behold, they found a couple of people who were employees of corporations that were corporate sponsors, or that they wanted to pitch for corporate sponsorship. They said, oh, we have an in now. And I think they invited them into a special event at the opera. And that was just taking this one basic step of like getting to know you, who's following you, instead of just blasting out a message. Okay, so who's going to do the work? This is my, I guess you're all sitting there, okay, yeah, that's great, but who's going to do the work? We don't have time for that. Okay, so this is what we see if we do a synthesis out there of nonprofits of how the work gets done. At the very end, there's staff. These are large organizations, mostly national organizations that hired an intern 5 years ago, and that person now is a staff person. In the middle, we have this integrated thing, like where we're looking at tasks in a job, and we're saying maybe you don't need to be spending time stuffing envelopes. Maybe you could spend some time on Facebook. What are some tasks that you don't need to do? I mean, one organization kind of went through the simplicity exercise and said, we don't need to be booking hour meetings. We're going to book 45-minute meetings and spend the other 15 minutes doing social media. And then, of course, there's free. We have interns, we have volunteers, and your fans who can do the work. So we want to make sure if you're using an intern that you don't do this. When I've gone around and talked about the book, sometimes we get a lot of young people coming, and I'm the social media intern, and this is what happens. I'm going to be taken seriously. This is Devin Smith, writes a great blog for theater and social media, and she wrote a manifesto about interns, that they will be taken seriously, given real work to do, be respected for their opinion, and be patiently taught the things they don't know yet. Instead of just saying, oh, our intern's here. Here's the social media. It doesn't work like that. Well, okay, so what if you don't have an intern? Well, recruit one on Facebook. The ACLU, I mean, they're going to be on Facebook. And notice what they did. It was really smart. They used something called tagging, and those aren't random people. They tagged people at different colleges and universities in the area who might run internship programs. And sometimes the intern can be right inside your organization. This is the, I'm going to mispronounce it, Koombah Jazz Festival. I've been coaching the marketing director who said, I don't have time for this. But she did have time to make a plan, because we created the plan, and she had an understanding of what needed to do. She did do a little tweeting and Facebooking, and then discovered that the son, the co-founder, just graduated from NYU, had been doing social media for all the jazz festivals on the East Coast. So already done and knew all the influencers and knew the space online for jazz people. And so now he is the social media intern. And she's doing something, I think, really creative. She's having a 15-minute meeting with him per week. Because she now has the plan in a spreadsheet, she understands it, and so then she fully trusts that he can go out there and not embarrass them. Especially since he's the co-founder's son, but that's another issue. So, we're going to get